Hello railway and simulator enthusiasts, and welcome to this video. My name is Raphael, and today I will present to you a guide on how to drive a train in France by the means of its signaling and signaling system. This guide will be fully available in a PowerPoint that I will distribute alongside this video. So why is this guide existing? What is this guide meant for? As of November 2020, the Train-Sim-World route, being the LGV from Marseille to Avignon, has been announced, and this guide will be primarily made to use the signals and signaling systems on this route. Note that it also exists in Train Simulator with an expansion to Lyon. The high-speed system, being the TVM, is also used on the southeastern high-speed from London St Pancras to Faversham, at least as far as Ebbsfleet International, on Train Simulator, and is also upcoming to Train Sim World. The various third-party routes on Train Simulator and also on Open Rails also use the French signaling system. It might be interesting for you if you're looking at getting those routes. So, how would this guide be organized? In this first part, we're going to be looking at some of the specifics of the railways and at the signaling. We'll mostly be looking at the railway signals. In another part, we will be looking at the boards and then to the safety systems. Starting with the specifics. Trains in France run on the left, except in one region, being the Alsace region, where they run on the right. That being said, signals are mostly implemented on the left-hand side of the track, and on the right if you are in the Alsace region, or if there is not enough space for the signal to be implemented on the left-hand side. Naturally, you might find signals for direction on the opposite track, but that is for wrong-way running. Speeds go as far as 220 on what is called classic lines. Those are lines in which the TGV will not run at their max speed, being 320 km per hour, and all trains can go on the classic lines. The speed can be defined by boards or signals, and they can be as temporary as they can be permanent. We can distinguish three main signal types called the BAL, BAPR, and BM, all subject of this video. The trains in France use three main safety systems, the KVB, the TVM, and the VACMA, being a dead man's paddle. We'll review them in another part. Trackside equipments include the Crocodile and the Bally's. As for the electrification go, they have 1.5 kV DC and 25 kV AC. You'll be able to find this electrification in most of France, although the high-speed lines, like the one from Marseille to Avignon, is on 25 kV AC current. We'll start by reviewing the signals. So let's talk about the three main types of signal that we talked about earlier. The first one is the BAL signaling. It means Bloc Automatique Lumineux, which in English translates into Illuminated Automatic Block. The second one is the Bloc Automatique à Permissivité Restreinte, BAPR. It means automatic block with restricted permissions. And the last one is the Bloc Manuel, or manual block, very simply said. So talking about the BAR, it is the main signal type that you will find out of Marseille. It is the one that is used on most main lines in France, especially the busy one. There are two types of permission that we will review in more detail. The BAPR is a long sectioning signal type that we'll review very quickly in the middle of this video. It is not found on the lines that are upcoming yet into Train Simulator or Train Sim World. The BM is entirely manual, and it uses the same principles as the BAPR. All of the aspects of the BM are controlled by the signaler. Some of them can be replaced by radio communication in real life. Same as the BAPR, they are not found on the lines upcoming yet to Train Simulator or Train Sim World. The purpose of this guide will mostly focus on the BAR type. As said before, there will be a quick BAPR and BM signal review. The BAR signaling is probably the most complex one, and it is found on most of France. It has different types of permissions that are attributed to a red signal. They can be used for the main line movements and shunting, and they have block indications and speed limits indication. They can be found on the same signal head. This diagram, used for model railways, displays most of the signal types that you will find in France. I'll distinguish them into four parts, plus an extra one. The top left one can display two different types of block signals. The top right ones display speed warnings. Alongside displaying speed warnings, the one on the bottom left can also display the application of the speed restriction. The bottom right one are also used as shunting signals. And the special one on the very bottom right is a junction indicator, which we'll review later on. So let's start by reviewing most of the BAL signal aspects. And we'll use this signal head on the left-hand side of the screen to review those. Note that some aspects may be fictive for this signal head. In France, you read the signals from bottom to top. The bottom information is the one that you must acquire first before acquiring the one at the very top of it. You'll understand why later. Starting from the bottom, you'll find the most restrictive aspect possible, indicated by a board. This is the first one that we'll review just after we explain the rest of the signal. To the middle of the screen and the bottom of the signal head, you'll find the block aspect. Just above that, you'll find the speed aspect. Some signals can be complemented by an OITAN, which you'll find to the bottom left of the signal. This has to do with the permission that the signal can have if it displays a red aspect. The last one is the junction indicator, which you can find at the top of some signals. Talking about the boards on the bottom of the signal, there are two possible ones. This is not exactly exclusive to the BAL signaling, but it is mostly found on them. The NF board, as we call, means non franchissable, cannot be passed, translated. The F board means franchissable, and it means that it can be passed. Both of these boards can mistakenly be taken as that the signal can be passed at danger if it is an F board, and not be passed if it is an NF board. This is not really the case, as I'll explain now. The NF board means that the most restrictive aspect is a carré, or a square, the first aspect that we'll review just after that. The F1 means that the most restrictive aspect is a semaphore of the type BAL. Do not mistake those boards as an indication that you can pass the signal if it is an F board. This isn't exactly what it means. So we'll first start with the block aspect of the signal. Shown on the left is the signal of an NF type showing two red lights. The same indication can be found on this board on the right, which can also be used for mechanical signals, or semaphores in English. It should not be mistaken for semaphore as the French signal aspect, so from now on, I'll refer to this board on the right as a mechanical signal. This signal is the most restrictive aspect you can find in France, and it is the carré, or the square. Its meaning is an absolute stop. It is only encountered with signals that are wearing an NF board. So if you look at the background of this video, the work in progress screenshot from Dovetail Games shows two red signals per signal head with an F board. This is not possible in reality. You may not pass this signal at all, under any circumstance if you encounter it. The block ahead may be occupied by another train, or the switches may be set against your direction. This signal is also not exclusive to the BAL signaling, although I have integrated it into the BAL category. But I do mean it in the BAL signaling, because if you pass it in TrainSimWorld, this is a ticket back to the main menu at any point. If we have a single red light in this signal with the OITAN lit up, then this becomes a semaphore of the BAL type, and the semaphore means stop, then proceed. This aspect can be quite confusing, but it can be even more confusing if we delete the OITAN and replace the NF board by being an F board. This is still a semaphore. The semaphore, as said, means stop, then proceed. But when you proceed on sight at no more than 30 km per hour and ready to stop at any obstacle or the next signal ahead. This signal has a declination, which is a blinking red. This means proceed on sight at 15 km when passing. Stopping is not mandatory at this signal, but you need to be ready to stop at any point or at the next signal. You may encounter this signal in the following situations. If there is a heavy traffic at a platform and trains need to closely follow each other, then this signal might be at different parts of the platform, allowing trains to closely follow each other without encountering. The other situation is when the signal is placed at a gradient. It is to prevent friend trains from stopping at the gradients, where starting again from there might be difficult or impossible. This signal is called un avertissement, or a warning. It can also be encountered on the mechanical signals using this yellow square. Most of you would say that this signal is to one of an upcoming red signal, and you would be right, but not only. This signal can be used to mean that the next signal can be a red, as in square, a semaphore, or even a buffer stop. It can also say that the next signal is off and has a failure. So you need to be ready to stop at the next signal or buffer. This aspect can also be blinking, and it has a different meaning. It could be mistaken that this signal is a pre-warning for the next signal being a yellow aspect. But this is not exactly true. This meaning has been lost a long time ago. This signal actually means that there is a shorter distance between the next and the second next signal. A shorter braking distance, in other words. It means that you need to be ready to slow down and or potentially stop at the second next signal, as it may be showing a red aspect or there might be a speed restriction attached to it. In other words, start slowing down now to be ready to slow down more at the next signal and potentially be ready to stop at the second next signal. This one is a simple one, a simple green aspect, just above what would be the red signal. This is voie libre, or clear track. Proceed at line speed, the maximum allowed speed for your train on this line. And if you didn't guess, this signal can also be blinking. And what does it mean? It means be at 160 km per hour or below at the next signal. This is only used on lines with a max speed higher than 160 km per hour and for trains that can actually go beyond it. Some trains might not encounter this signal at all as they cannot go above 160 km per hour. Now let's review the speed part of the signal at the very top. A rule of thumb is that the horizontal aspect means that it is a ralentissement or a slowdown. A vertical one means that it is a rappel or a reminder. It is the points at which the speed limit applies. So let's start reviewing those aspects. Two horizontal signals, or this mechanical signal at the right, mean that this is a ralentissement or slowdown to 30 km per hour. Now if this is blinking, then this would be 60 km per hour. This is rule of thumb number 2. If you see two yellow signals at the top of the signal, then it is a slowdown to 30 km per hour speed restriction. And if those two lights are blinking, then you must transform the 30 into a 60 km per hour. Remember that rule of thumb of earlier? If the two lights are vertical, it is the reminder, or in French, rappel, that the speed limit is 30 km per hour. This particular signal also has an equivalent on the mechanical signals on the right. And if those two lights are blinking, same as before, the speed limit is 60 km per hour. You must be at that speed when passing the signal. This speed limit ends at the next speed board, or as soon as you pass the switches that you must go through after this signal. Please note that this signal can be completed by a single yellow block aspect, which can actually also be blinking. This signal may not have a green or red aspect. Now that we got that out of the way, it is important to note that those signal hands may exist, and if you find those, then the main signal aspects that we reviewed earlier are shown like this. The square is actually two horizontal lines compared to the two vertical ones that we saw earlier. The clear track aspect is the green one on the bottom left of the signal, and warning is on the bottom right a single yellow light. I haven't encountered those signals myself, but they may be common in other places. Remember this diagram of earlier? We still need to see the shunting signals. We'll use this single double light signal, a shunting signal. It doesn't have any particular name in French. Please note that it can also be horizontal when laying trackside. This signal can show three particular aspects. The first of them is a single white light at the top. This means maneuver, or shunting. It means that you can start shunting at no more than 30 km per hour. Interesting fact about this signal is that you can actually start a mainline move out of it. You just need to start accelerating after the next signal that permits you to do so. If this signal is blinking, then it becomes a manœuvre réduite signal, restricted shunting. Shunt at no more than 30 km per hour and keep in mind that you are being routed into a siding or a depot track. This signal does not allow a mainline move to start. And now if you encounter this signal, it is a carré violet, or purple square. You could guess as much by the mechanical aspect on the bottom right, and it just means stop. Much like the square that we saw earlier with the red signal, a square means a stop. You must not pass this signal under any circumstance, especially seeing that this signal has an NF board under it. Let's move to the next type of signal that we will see, the BAPR and the BM signaling. So the BAPR and BM signaling is currently not found on any of the current announced DLCs in Train Sim World, and is not found on the main add-ons in Train Simulator either, as far as I'm aware. It allows for very long blocks, sometimes up to 25 kilometers. Also important to remind that the BAPR is the automatic signal type and the BM one is the manual one. Even though that's said, they use the same signal heads. We'll use this signal head, which has two aspects. The square at the middle has no meaning. We'll first start by reviewing the board under it. It can show two different aspects. PR, meaning that this signal belongs to the BAPR signaling, and BM, meaning that this signal belongs to the BM signaling. We'll use the PR board for this signal from now on. If this signal shows a single green aspect, what would it mean? If you said voie libre, then you would be right. It means voie libre, clear track, you can start going on the main line. Proceed at line speed, the maximum allowed speed for your train on this line. And now if it is showing a red aspect, what would it be? If you said carré, that's not exactly right. It is actually a semaphore, but of the BAPR and BM type, and contrary to the BAR type, this one means stop. You cannot pass this signal under any circumstance. So now we got this out of the way, let's review this signal head. A very specific one, and it took me a while to figure out what it means as it has several uses. I'll describe those uses now. I'll call this the circular signal. This special signal doesn't belong to a particular type of signaling, and it is used as an IPCS signal. IPCS means itinéraire permanent de contresens, or wrong way running. Blatantly translated, it would translate into permanent itinerary of wrong way. Wrong way running seems like a correct translation to me. In BAPR and BM signaling, you could potentially identify this signal as a distance signal, and I'll explain why. This signal has a board under it. If this one has an A under it, it means that this signal can show at worst the avertissement or warning signal. It cannot show a red aspect. So we'll use this signal to review the aspect that we saw earlier. If there is one green light, what would it mean? Voie libre, clear track, proceed at line speed. In the BAPR and BM type signaling, this signal would mean that the next one is showing a green aspect. The next signal that we'll encounter is this one. What does this one mean again? It's the most restrictive that this signal can show, the avertissement or warning. Get ready to stop at the next signal. And what does it mean when it's blinking? It means that there's a shorter braking distance between the next signal and the second next signal, and that you need to be ready to stop or apply a certain speed at the second next signal. And now it shows two horizontal yellow lights. If you said that this was a slowdown to 30 km per hour, you would be right, and you need to do that before the next signal. And what if it's blinking again? It's 60. If you said that before I did, then you would be right as well, and you learn your lesson very well. So now, let's see this one. This looks scary, alright? Notice that this signal has a D plate under it? This is called a disc. The same pronunciation as the English one. And as you can see, it also has a mechanical signal aspect. This signal is a bit particular to the French signaling, and it means slow down to 30 km per hour as soon as possible, because you're supposed to drive on site from this signal and be ready to stop at the next signal, switch or station. This particular signal tends to disappear nowadays. It is used, for instance, to protect a private track or a small station, and this is only found in the BAPR and BM type signaling. Back to the diagram again. Remember how we haven't seen that type of signal yet? which reads indicateur de direction. This is a direction indicator. In French again, indicateur de direction. This is used to indicate where you are going in the geographical sense of it. You might know from other countries that this type of signal will indicate the next switch you are going to. In France, this is used to indicate the direction you are going to. It is typically found on the top of signals, as I indicated earlier. They light up from left to right, and if the rightmost light is illuminated, then all of the lights to the left of it also are. This first aspect means that you are going to the leftmost direction. The one to the bottom means that you are going to the rightmost direction. As this particular signal means that there is also a central direction, this is what this one in the middle would mean. So let's review some situation using this diagram. Let's say that this signal would have the two lights to the left and the center lit up. Where would that mean that you're going? If you said B or Bravo, you would be right. B is the direction to the center. A train coming from the left of this diagram will have the driver know that they are going in the direction B. So what would that mean for this particular signal with all of the lights lit up? It would mean that the driver is going in the direction of C. And that's even though the first switch they will encounter is going to the left than in an underpass. And naturally, for the last aspect, if only the leftmost light was lit up, then the driver will know that they are going in the direction of A. Those digital boards are distant junction indicators. Those have pretty much exactly the same meaning as the ones I showed you before. The leftmost direction for the top one and the rightmost direction for the bottom one. Know how in some countries you can encounter a digital board with a letter or a number on it. While in France you can encounter two of those. Those are direction indicators. They indicate the direction you are routed towards. This one, with the letters P and N, means Paris Nord. It means that you are routed towards Paris North Railway Station. Another one would be with a number 2, which means that you are routed to the track with the same number, track number 2. This next one looks almost exactly the same, except that if it is a dot matrix 1 in a yard or a service track, this would be an origin indicator. Its purpose is to tell which train is allowed to exit the service track or depot. Those are used in situations where the exit of the track or depot is protected by a single signal, and this means that the train on track 11 can proceed and exit the depot. This other situation indicates that the train on track 2S can proceed and exit the service yard. It is only found in the said situations. And this was it for this video about the signals. Thank you very much for listening. In the next part, we'll review the boards. Goodbye and have a good one.